relationships, trauma, philosophy, relationships, trauma, philosophy.
Hello and welcome to episode 71 of the Yalla Habibi podcast.
Yes, a very spooky episode of the Yalla Habibi podcast.
Please make sure that you like, subscribe, rate and share us on whatever platform you are joining us from today.
We would really appreciate that, and that is probably only the 6th time we've done that at the start of the show out of the 71 episodes. We're just too focused on bringing value.
We are too focused on bringing value and laughs.
Value.
Shits and gigs.
Shits and gigs.
And what I would say is, just before we get started, Scott, knock knock.
Who's there?
Wolves of London.
I'd have to howl for that though, wouldn't I?
No, but you go, woo.
Oh, woo.
He said, ow, who?
Oh, who? Ah,
Wolves
yeah.
of London.
And Shelby has lots of... You have so many good jokes.
I have a lot of good jokes. I said, did you hear about the time that Godzilla went to South Korea?
I said, no.
Scott said it was soul destroying.
I think that was even funnier.
Thank you.
Maybe we should do an episode where you just tell one-liners like that.
I think we should.
The Jimmy Carrey.
Yeah, I feel like Jimmy Carr does a lot of one-liners. And yeah, there's quite a few comedians that do. Just one for your full episode of dad jokes.
That'd be tough.
That'd be easy.
Let's get your dad on. Job done.
Yeah, there you go.
Her dad is so quick with him. And when Shelby's with her dad, it's just they egg each other on. You can just nothing has to be said. There'll just be a grin on both of their faces, and you can tell that something inside is happening. Where they both know inside, so it's about to happen.
And it's like a game of table tennis.
Yes.
Where we just one of us will say a pun about something, and then the other one will say a pun about the same thing, and then we'll just keep going. And you'll just hear one of us go, when we've got one, just an inhale, waiting for someone to look at us so that we can deliver it.
It is lovely. I do love that about your relationship with your dad.
Yeah, we're very funny humans.
But going on to the spooky side,
yes.
I mean, The Werewolf of London, I love that film.
I don't think I've seen it.
But it's a classic. It's quite old.
Michael J. Fox.
Oh, I don't know.
From Back to the Future.
I don't know.
I feel like he's an American Werewolf.
American Werewolf.
Maybe.
But it's good. It's a good film. It's quite dated, but many young'uns might find the special effects a bit silly. But for its day and age, its special effects were unreal.
Yeah.
It's actually, I think the special effects still stand up pretty well today.
Oh, I'll give it a watch.
It's pretty cool.
Well, and just speaking of spooky, and before we do get onto the spooky, because we're going to look at things that are quite extreme, horrific, psychological distress, psychological torment, talking about manipulation. So, yeah, if you are triggered by those things, maybe skip this episode.
Yeah, no, I'm happy you said that, because the way we're going to do this for the spooky episode, we're going to actually share our own encounters with spooky encounters in life, and they're very real, and they may be a bit triggering for people, so just big warning there. The whole episodes, even our news, even our segments, Scott's WTF and Shelby's Good Vibes, are going to be Halloween and spooky, so maybe just, keep it, be aware.
Yeah.
Well, who should kick off? The thing is, I think what we should first say is I'm not a big Poltergeist person. I enjoy my horror films. I'll have the conversations. I'll talk about aliens. I'll talk about Poltergeist. But to an extent, I'm not gonna... I don't know at the end of it. I'm pretty agnostic on most things. I don't know what I don't know. And I will entertain, I will listen out. I'll always listen to everyone and hear and speak. And I find it fascinating to explore people's thoughts and experiences. But I would probably lean more on the side that there isn't than there is. But I am always open. But I have had some very real experiences that I will share today.
Well, see, I find that interesting that you say on the one hand you don't believe in it, and on the other hand you're like, well, I've had a real experience with it.
Yeah, but if I was to examine that and someone to say, hey, try to figure out what happened here, I think I would naturally try find just a logical reason, like, oh, I was stressed, or there was whatever, there's something wrong in the house that week, we're having work done, whatever it was. Like, and it, something, one in particular, I'd really struggled to figure out how, because there was just so many encounters in this one place from not just me, from multiple people who, again, are not like big into poltergeist, but it was pretty intense. So, yes, and maybe I would find it a bit difficult to explain the why, but I don't know if, I don't know. I'm more agnostic. What about you?
It depends on the day of the week that you ask me. Like I've said to Scott to not take anything I say too seriously because my mood can change on it very quickly. There's certain things that I'm very firm on. I have certain like ethical beliefs that I, such as being vegan, that my opinion on that doesn't change. But, I can look at it from all angles in terms of like ghosts and like the afterlife and what happens after we die, if ghosts exist, if we can be visited by loved ones after they've gone, all these kinds of things. I would say, on balance, I'm someone that says yes, I do think that ghosts exist to some extent, or spirits or something to that extent. And then, but, if you ask me at a certain time of day, I might be like, well, it's all simulation, so who knows, we're not even here.
You have been saying that a lot recently.
I have saying that a lot recently. So yeah, I don't know. But on balance, I would say that, yes, I am a spooky bitch.
Wow. I think we just got the title. Or at least the caption. I love that. Well, let me kick off it, because I've got two and you've got one, haven't you?
Yeah.
And I've got a big one, which I'll save to the end, and I'll just do a small one just to get us going. Because you said...
Appetizer, if you will.
If you will. But trust me, they get more dark and more twisted as we go on through the episode. So first one, I think this was one that most people will actually experience in their life. I think, like 14 or 15 I was. And it was the first death that I faced. So it was quite confusing. It was very intense. It was kind of crazy. I saw she had an open... Well, it's not crazy, but for a young kid, I think it was pretty mind-blowing. Because they had an open cast. Not for the funeral, but the day before. They had an open cast. And they actually had it within the home of my nan and granddad. My granddad was still alive at that time. And I saw a dead body. I wanted to see, but I also was really scared. But yeah, I was just sort of giving you some context. And there's some other sort of things I said. Well, I'll tell you. Something that really sad that always eats me up is that I was ill. Because she was so ill at the time, we had to be really careful with who visited her. Even if you had a cold, you couldn't, it could be detrimental. And I did. I can't remember what I had. I had something like a cold or something, and then we just didn't want to risk it. And I did still have time with her in the year before, and I think maybe 8 months before she died, but everyone else went down individually, and I didn't get that chance because we didn't want to risk it. And when I was going to do it, she died a few weeks before it. So it really affected me. And then the next time I saw her was, in a casket. So it really affected me. It was really tough. But let me get to the poltergeist bit. So I don't know if you call this poltergeist or someone visiting you. But maybe a few weeks later, when I was going to school, my mate comes, knocks on the door for me. I'm always late, so he just stands there for 10 minutes waiting for me. And this time, I was just too late. So actually, this time he actually left. He said, I think I'm going to miss the bus, Scott. So he went, I went, no problem, James, you go. He was so kind. He'd stand there for 20 minutes. Oh. He was such a patient, nice, great friend. He went, and I had to rush. And when I was coming around the corner, so I had to come out my house. I would then go straight around a corner, run up the street, go around another corner, and then I'd come out the street, and then I'd turn left and I'd run to the bus stop. But when I came around the second corner, I was running. It was just, me. And there might have been the odd kid on the other side of the road just walking about. But I was sort of jogging. And 100%, I can see it now. There was a parked car facing me, parked on the side that I was jogging. And I was just looking about as I was jogging. And I looked at the driver's seat. But not intentionally, I was just sort of gazing around. And I 100% saw my nan sat up. She was there, not looking at me, just looking straight forward.
Oh, wow.
She was sat in there in the driver's seat looking straight forward. It stopped me. It suddenly just stopped me in my tracks. I stopped because I saw my night. She was there and it freaked me the F out. And then I turned, I took a double take, I turned back and I saw her for a brief second there. She was but she wasn't looking at me. She was just looking forward. And she didn't look like, there was zero movement. She was just sat upright looking forward in the car. I believe that was her, I guess if I think about it now, I think that was just her saying, hey, I know you didn't get a chance to come see me. I've managed to do this for you to see me. It was a bit scary for two reasons. One, I'd never experienced something like that. And two, it wasn't like a dream where I could interact with her in a positive way and we could watch TV together or something. It looked like her her eyes were wide open. She was just staring for it. It did look a little bit demonic.
Oh my God.
No, she looked like her, but it gave a scary presence.
Oh, I don't like that.
Because she was just sat upright, just staring right forward, just like cold. I was like, oh. So it was like good and scary, but it really affected me. I've never shook it, and I can picture it exactly. I can picture the car, I can picture where it was.
That was really weird that there was just a car horn outside when he said that.
There we go. So yeah, I don't know if you call that poltergeist, but that was real, and I can still see it today.
Well, to me, that sounds like a very scary experience.
I was scared in the moment, but the older I've got, the more I see it as a good thing.
Oh, that's definitely good that you view it that way. Like, so something I don't understand is, like, poltergeist. What is that? How is that different to a ghost? Like, you think about, what is a poltergeist? I don't know. What, when you say, is it a poltergeist or what is it?
So we just defined it to make sure we got the right definition. And a ghost is typically the spirit of a soul or a dead person that appears or lingers in a place. Whereas a poltergeist, which is apparently German for noisy spirit, isn't usually tied to a dead person. It's known for causing physical disturbances like loud noises, moving objects, or breaking things. So it's the ones that all the shows are on. For me, reading that, they're both a ghost, just one's a naughty ghost.
One's a naughty ghost. Yeah, okay. And like one appears to you and one just makes their presence known.
When you say linger, that seems to me just one that's nice and one that's evil, right?
Maybe, I don't know, like from that definition I think a ghost can appear as a dead person or like whatever, whereas a poltergeist you wouldn't see, but you might see them flicker lights, a light might go on.
Okay. Well, in that instance, she would have been a ghost.
Yeah.
There was no it was her face, everything.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know how I would have reacted in that situation. So like, did you try and say anything?
I was frozen and I was just stuck staring at the car seat. I was just in shock. Because I know there was no question in my head what I was seeing. It was for a second and a half. It was quite quick, but it felt long. And I was quite shook for the day.
Were you thinking about her right before it or anything? Or
No, I wasn't. I was just trying to get to the boss.
Yeah. Did you tell your mum?
I don't know.
Oh. Sounds very intense. Sounds like a lot to experience. Very intense.
Well, it was my first death, so yeah, I guess that's maybe the might see. If I go to the side of less believing in ghosts, it would be like, oh, that's how a young kid's brain would process such a traumatic event. It'd be part of the processing. But, I can, just like you said, different days I could probably see it in different ways.
What about, do you feel like she's ever visited again since then?
I can't remember. Nothing I can think of notable. Again, because I'm not someone who connects to this or reads into this.
I just nearly shot myself because I saw your hand reflection in your laptop and I thought something was there.
Oh no!
Yeah, sorry, continue.
No worries. No, because I don't really lean into that stuff. So I think if I lean into it, I think you'd see it more. But no, I don't look for it. So no, I can't say I can remember anything where I've noted a moment. I'll tell you something random, which I told you It's a bit comical, but honestly, we were in Japan, and my granddad obviously since passed away. He lived for quite some time after that though, and he passed away. And we were in Japan last year, and an old man got on, and my granddad is not Japanese, by the way. He's a Welsh man, and he looked just like him. It freaked me out. This was a real human on a train, you know. It was an old man. And I remember you were like looking at me like, what's going on? Because you could tell me I was, you know, there's something going on in my head. But I was just staring at this old man, and I was trying to not look at him, but I couldn't stop because he looked so much like my granddad.
Yeah.
I told you after, so I don't think that's personally, again, I think if you look for it, you lean to it, you would say, oh, that's a message. But I just see it as it's a man who resembles the looks of my granddad. But it felt special.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And I enjoyed that moment, yeah. It was a bit, took me back a bit, and it maybe a bit emotional, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. Whereas the Nan experience was a bit, I didn't enjoy it in the moment. It
Yeah.
was just a bit, it was really shock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I bet. Well, shall I
Yes.
tell my story? So I have, I don't know, like I have a few little stories of like, you know, I can smell my grandma's perfume sometimes, or like, you know, strange, odd things that have happened in the house. But like the main thing I would say about what's worth knowing about my house is we're right behind the church, and to the left of us is where the monks lived many moons ago, like hundreds of years ago, and they even have a chapel of rest in their garden, which is like where they would put the bodies before ceremonies, you know, before the funeral, you know, like a little house where they keep the body. So that they still have that, well, unless they knocked it down because my neighbours are not respectful of their land. But there always was this like little outhouse on there. So monastery to the left, and then just ahead and to the right, the nuns used to live. So, you know, it's quite a spiritual ground, if you will. And there's just like a few odd things that have happened in the house over the years. Like my mum and I have both heard the piano being played in the middle of the night.
Yeesh, that's creepy.
It is a bit, yeah, that is a bit creepy.
That's creepy.
And that hasn't happened in a long time, but we've both like at the same night been like, oh, I thought I could hear the piano in the, you know, I was like, oh, I thought I could hear the piano in the night. And like mum has these bangles that she used to wear every day.
I didn't make a noise.
She's like an Indian auntie.
Yeah, you can hear her coming from a mile away. If you're doing something you shouldn't be, don't worry, you'll know she's coming. It's funny.
No, it's something like 10 bangles she's got on her wrist
Yeah.
at any given point, and they all clang together. But I felt like as I saw her, it's like, do they not bother you, the noise? She's like, oh no, never thought about it. No, but she used to have these 2 gold bangles that, you know, were very, and she'd wear them every single day without fail. You know, she'd take them off when she got in the bath, and she'd put them on the side of the bath. Then the next day she'd put them on. You know, they were on her wrist or on the bath. And they just disappeared at some point, like a couple of days, and then they just reappeared by the bath. So one time, there was me and my brother, I think my dad was in the house as well, and all of a sudden we heard this like glass shattering noise. My brother yelled, Shelby, what have you done? I was like, I haven't done anything, what have you done? And so when I came running up the stairs, and we figured out that it was coming from the shower room, which is right next to my bedroom, so fair that my brother thought that I'd done something. And when we went in the shower room, we'd seen that the pane of the door to the shower, the glass pane, had partially shattered, but not like all of it. Sort of a third of the way down, there's a big hole in the glass door,
Right.
and all of the glass was on the outside of the shower. So it was like as if someone had stood inside the shower and shoved like through the glass.
Okay.
You know, at about arm height. If you put your arms out in front of you,
Okay.
it would be about that height.
But the rest of the glass,
The rest of the glass was still stood.
and like, just cleanly.
Not clean, like it was shattered glass on the outside, you know,
yeah.
just jagged and everything. But the rest of the glass didn't even like, you know, like if you break a mirror, it like all
The whole
splits
pane
and stuff.
splits.
Yeah, no.
That's strange because it's just one pane, right?
Yeah, so it was just one pane of glass.
That's strange.
It wasn't like all gone. So it was really weird, and we have no explanation for that whatsoever. Like, nobody was in there. All the glass was on
And
the
he's saying the
outside.
glass was on the right side.
Was on the outside. So how it is now, as you know, Scott, is totally different to how it used to be. It was like a shower. You have those little trays, and then you've got like the side of the shower and a door to get out. So all glass. But the door bit is the bit that was broken, and all of the glass was on the outside. None of the glass was inside the shower. It was like in the shower room on the floor.
Right.
So yeah, as if someone was inside of the shower and had just punched through the glass.
How bizarre.
Really weird. It wasn't like, it was like evening. I do remember it was dark, but it wasn't like I was still in my uniform and stuff.
What is your parents' explanation for it? How did they justify it to you?
Well, they didn't.
All right, they didn't try to justify why it's happened.
No, why would they? We didn't know.
Just to make you feel okay, like feel comfortable.
They didn't try and console us. They were just like, oh, that's weird, isn't it? Must be George. We named the ghost George.
Yeah. Do you believe all this to be George?
I don't know. There's something about that felt a bit like I've always right. So like yeah, when something mischievous happens in my house, I always just say, "Oh, it's George," joking, like the friendly ghost.
Who came up with the name George?
Me and my friend Danielle, actually.
Okay, so there's no connection there.
And then
Okay.
we just like, anytime something happened, we'd just be like, "Oh, it's George."
Right.
And like even my mum now, she'll say, "Oh, it's George."
And I have heard George being there.
Yeah.
I've heard.
You've
Like,
heard actual George, or you mean his name? Oh.
I've told you.
What have you experienced of George?
No, I don't want to. I'm just saying. I've also heard noises in your house.
Yeah.
I texted you before because I thought you were in the house.
Oh,
I
yeah.
messaged you saying, "Oh, you're back," because I could hear like upstairs. I was working, I think, and I could hear like someone walking around upstairs.
Yeah, that is a weird phenomenon that happens in my house.
Yeah, it just sounded like someone was walking around the hallway, just between and like closing doors.
Oh, God, it creeps me
And
out.
like all the doors were closed, and I checked all the windows, they were all closed. There's no draft in your house if everything's closed.
Yeah.
Your house doesn't have that, so I was like, and also your doors don't really slam in your house, like
No.
they don't swing. So I was like, how's the noise? And I would shut everything, and I would go down, and 10 minutes later there'd be a noise again. I'm like,
Yeah.
there's no what?
It is very strange. Like I sometimes like will hear my name or something. So yeah, a little bit creepy.
Well, that is creepy. So George the ghost.
Yep.
I'll end us with one of mine. This is my scariest one. So, like you, I had in this one house, I had many experiences. So I won't go through them all because it'll be too much. So I'll just stick to the sort of key couple and then sort of work my way up to the main one. So me as growing up, I moved about a lot. I lived in my whole life in probably about 20 plus houses. And, from the age of 13 to the age of 20, it was like 12 or 13 different houses. Family issues, parents breaking up, all that sort of stuff that people face. So we lived in a lot of houses, and we moved to this one house, and it was great. It was really nice, and it was in a private village, like a private little neighborhood, sorry. And we didn't have a lot of money, it's all different conversation how it worked out. But it was a really nice house. Like, it was a spacious house, really nice neighborhood, good spot. We'd never lived in that town though, but it wasn't far from where we'd lived before. So it was really nice. So we were pretty excited to this house because we're like, wow, this is really quite nice. It has a games room. It has two front rooms, so we can have like the kids can watch stuff and then the parents can watch stuff. When I said parents, it was a stepdad at that time. So I guess when we just actually moved into the place, so you felt it the second you went into it. I'm not someone who searches for this. I'm not someone who tries to find this or goes to someone's house and go, oh, this room has a vibe, it feels a bit off. I only say that if I do just feel something, and it's quite rare. But it just, I don't know, no one vocalized it to each other. Everyone just, now I know everyone was thinking it because we've spoken since. But, I'll speak from my perspective. I just felt something was off, but I didn't really put much attention on it because this is a new house, it's exciting. I didn't really, focus on that too much, but there was a bit of an uncomfortable feeling in the house. But where I got to really get to feel it was when I was on my own in the house. So I was, we'd done a massive load of stuff from our old house. So we're moving cars and cars worth of stuff to this house, obviously. And I'm just going to stay there. It's late at night now, so I'm going to stop there. And I think my mum and a stepdad at the time went to get some more stuff. So I just stayed there. I was like, cool, I'm in the house. Let's, go check it out a bit more. And when I realised I was on my own, which I wasn't, worried about, I'm like 16, I think, at this time.
Hard as nails.
Hard as nails. You do feel like you are at that age. But I just remember when everyone went and it all went quiet, that feeling that was there and I ignored increased.
Mm-hmm.
To a point where I had to recognize it. And I was trying to ignore, but I had to recognize it now. And I was just sitting in the smaller front room, and I was just trying to sit there to try to figure out what I'm feeling. I was like, why, something feels off here. Again, I'm not seeing anything at this point, not heard anything. It just felt off. And I just started getting more and more scared and more uncomfortable and more nervous. I was like, what is happening? And I wasn't nervous about moving to the house because honestly, I'd lived in about 7 houses before that already. I'd gotten used to it. I'd gotten used to the situation we were in our family, we were fine with it. So it wasn't that. It was I just felt unnerved. And to the point where it froze me. And because I tried to walk around, but I felt so off. And I didn't dare to go upstairs. I was that scared. So from literally 10 minutes of them leaving on my own, I got that scared within 10 minutes. And I ended up just staying in that small front room until they came back. And it took them about an hour, to go there and back. And I just stayed there, like, frozen. I had no Wi-Fi. I just stayed there. I was like, this is something off. So that just sort of sets the scene for this place. Through the time, of course, we hear noises. A lot of it came from this top room. It was like this, not an attic style room, but it kind of looked like an attic room. So much noises came from that room. So much slamming doors, banging, voices. There was just no explanation. The doors were shut and everything. But let me get to the cherry on the top that happened to me. At this point, we've been there for maybe about 8 months. And we've all spoken to each other by now that something's off about this house. Like, everyone's come to a point where we've spoken and said, yeah, I've had a moment. We've all had experiences. But it really turned up the heat for me this one evening. I don't know why, but at this stage in my life, I suffered from like really bad sleep paralysis. I used to get it really bad, and it was quite consistent for a few years to an aggressive point. I got so used to it, I managed to teach my body to actually vibrate my leg to communicate to people around me that it's happening to me.
Wow.
So then they can wake me up.
That's a skill.
Yeah, so I could actually vibrate my leg to communicate to them. They'd wake me up and they'd be like, are you okay? I'm like, no, it was horrible. This one night, I wasn't conscious of this. I got told by my girlfriend at the time. I sort of shot up out of bed and I grabbed my shoe and I threw it across the room. And it smashed, just like what you said, it smashed my glass. I had a glass door to my wardrobe. And it smashed that. It smashed the entire thing. I wasn't conscious of this. And apparently I just threw it and then I just like dropped to the floor. Or maybe just like fell on the floor from my bed. And I'm like all blurry eyes, not sure what's happening. And she's like terrified, like in the corner of the bed, like, what are you, like, she thinks, are you going to attack me? Like, what are you doing? And I'm not aware of what's happening. By this moment, my mum was up at the door, like knocking on the door, goes, is everything okay? Because she just had this big smash. I'm still not clear what's happened. And then she recounts it. And she said, we were asleep. I felt you move like quite aggressively, you moved out of bed. And the next thing I know, I hear this massive smash and you've launched your shoe. You've just picked up your shoe. You've thrown it as hard as you can. What are your wardrobe? You smashed it. And then you've fallen on the floor. And I've never sleepwalked in my life. It's never been a thing I've done. It's not something I do. I've never been known for it. I don't sleepwalk. I don't really sleep talk. So that was when it started heating up. I felt from that point forward, it had either a problem with me, or it had a problem with me being in that specific room, because I was the only person to be sleeping downstairs. So I don't know if it didn't like me in that room.
Interesting.
I will sort of go on to one other moment which really was the worst experience for me. You know, it really shook up my girlfriend at the time, and she, you know, couldn't go to sleep because it just looked like I was possessed. Oh. You know, it looked like something had taken hold of me. And I was really scared then, because I was like, I didn't have control. I didn't know I didn't have any control. Like, it shook me from that moment. And not that long after, I was on my own in the bed, and I visualized the exact room I was in. I was paralysis. I was awake, but paralyzed, and the entire room was on fire. So this was a separate thing. And the entire room, like, I could see all my stuff, my wardrobe, my desk, everything, and the entire thing was on fire. And I was just lying there getting burnt alive, and I was screaming and screaming, obviously not making any noise, and just crying and screaming and screaming. And I knew I was being burnt alive, and I had to get out of this room, and I couldn't move. And I was just just fucking losing my mind trying to leave. And then eventually I shut awake, and I literally ran out the room, because I still thought the room was on fire.
Yeah.
I still thought it was on fire. So I ran out the room, and everything's dark, you know, it's only me downstairs. Ran out the room, and I'm outside in the hallway. You know, everyone's still asleep. I was just so freaked out, and I was like cold, and I was sweating. In that moment, I was just like, what the fuck is going on with this house? I'm sorry, there is something fucked up in this house. I don't know what. In that moment, I'd already accepted there was something off with the house, and there was unexplainable things. As I tried to explain them, I tried to verify everything. I couldn't. At that point, it wasn't too far after the other one, I was like, we need to get out of this house. There is something that, and I believe it will still be like that today. And it's really unassuming. It looks like a lovely house. It doesn't look scary. But I wouldn't want to step foot in that house again, because, you know, it hasn't happened since like that. So I think it's remained within the house. Yeah, again, not something that I've experienced a lot in life, but that house. And I know if I got my sister on the episode, she would have a bunch of stories as well. I'm sure she had some individual ones that she hasn't shared with me. So yeah, that was my most intense, I would say, poltergeist experience. That felt so real.
Yeah, I bet. And that definitely sounds like our newly learnt definition of poltergeist.
It was causing havoc. I can't imagine. I wonder how many people have lived in that house since. But yeah, I wanted to leave that house ever since after that. And we did. We actually did. We shortly left.
Was that connected to that? Like, you know, did you leave at all for, like, was that part of the reason?
For the story to sound awesome, not quite. You know, we had a lot of financial issues, and there was other things at play. But did all of us agree that there was something off? And we all felt, no one felt safe in the house on their own. Everyone admitted they felt uncomfortable on their own in the house. Me and my sister by that time weren't leaving our rooms when we were in the house on our own. So everyone quietly wanted to leave.
Yeah.
But we weren't, you know, it wasn't easy for us to just bounce between houses, you know. There was difficult things going on in the family at that time. So, you know, we had to wait for things to happen. But we did leave not shortly after that. And I was relieved. I think we all were.
Wow, scary stories. Some very creepy ones. I mean, your ghost, my ghost is friendly. Your ghost didn't sound as friendly.
That was an evil one. It didn't like us.
Well, thank you very much for sharing those stories. Shall we move on to your WTF of the week?
Yes, and by the way, if anyone listening to this has their own stories, please do send us an email. Our email is still our old email, but we'll tell you it anyway. It's balls, BALLS, deep, DEEP, podcast show @gmail.com. Send us emails. We will update that at some point. But yes, let's move on to more scary stuff. I'm going to feel so triggered after this episode.
No, don't. Our plan is to watch Wednesday. Maybe we watch something a bit more calm.
Yeah, I know. If you're starting to feel triggered, then I wouldn't recommend to carry on because we're about to raise the bar again in my WTF of the week. So trigger warning. This is going to get it's a very real thing that I'm about to share. And it's quite dark, and there is discretion, especially if you're sensitive to violence, coercion, and traumatic experiences. Okay. So, Scott's WTF of the week. Every week, the world gets weirder. Let's talk about the strangest thing went down this week. So, I'm surprised you haven't heard about this, but the McKamey Manor, McKamey, McKamey, is it you say McKamey?
I guess so.
McKamey Manor. Again, let us know in the comments if you've heard of this. I'm surprised because us being a very similar age, I thought everyone's heard this. It was like such a big thing, and I was so into watching the YouTube videos on this.
Yeah.
So, what the McKamey Manor was, it was once dubbed as the world's scariest haunted house. This is a real haunted house in America. And I'm going to direct you to some content you can watch shortly as well. But it really blurred the line between fear and abuse. And it was this very highly immersive horror experience, which eventually spirals into one of the most controversial attractions ever. I'll get onto the controversy shortly, but let me sort of build a picture of what this experience was. So it was an invite-only thing. So you could submit your information, but you weren't guaranteed. Like, it was handpicked. People were clawing to get it because they wanted to test themselves. It was so intense. Let me give you some context of what it was doing. If you were chosen, you had to sign a 40-page waiver, basically signing your life away. This was basically like a torture house. Think of someone's house, they've completely modified it to a torture chamber, like a scare house. What he does is he sits down with you and talks to you for hours and hours. He basically interviews you, and he does this deliberately, and the participants know this, to understand what are your fears, why do you want to do this. Like, he was very hand selective of people because he knew it's pretty intense, and he'd want to understand your exact fears. So if it's like, I hate spiders, or I get claustrophobic, I don't like being bound, all these things are going to be used against you. I don't like the dark, they're all going to be used against you. And it is demonic. It is, if there are videos, and I'll point you to them shortly, but it can be over 10 hours, and it's a very intense experience where I'll give you an example. I've seen them literally get people, bound them up, throw them in a freezer tub and drown them.
Oh my God.
They're drowned, but obviously they're not going to kill. They don't kill you, but they will throw you in a freezer tub and put the water all the way up to like your nose.
Yeah.
So they would leave you in there for like 10 minutes. Like, you'd have to calm yourself down or you'll like pass out. They would like then pull you out, and they would bound you. They would shave your hair off. They would do everything to freak you out. Basically, they would manipulate you in ways. They said that they didn't physically hurt people, or they
didn't cause any
harm, but everyone came out with bruises and cuts and stuff.
Yeah.
Because it just happened. They were using real everything. They're taking a knife to their toe and go, I'm going to chop your fucking toe off. So it was really intense, and it would go on for hours, and they would obviously agree a safe word, and then if you say it, they just add more time. So if you say your safe word, they'd be like, oh, sounds like you need 2 more hours of this stuff. Like, it was borderline torture. But that's why this is what he presented it. He's saying, this is not for the faint-hearted. This is going to be the most intense experience, and you've got no way out. It's going to be hard. So yeah, and he was revered as a innovator, and people praised him for this for a very long time.
Interesting. But so what I find interesting is, so this was completely voluntary by the people that did it.
Yeah, I think they paid for it.
Wow, so not only voluntary, but as in like they actively paid.
Wanted to test their mental endurance. They wanted, it's like dark tourism, isn't it? People want to test the limits, and people got a thrill off that. And the people who ran it he owned it and ran it, but he hired like local kids and stuff, and they were like actors and they played as these torture people.
So basically, a bunch of sadistic people
Pretty much.
and then a bunch of masochists.
Yeah.
I mean, it's horrific and it's awful, but I don't know if I think that he's done anything wrong. I don't know, maybe I'm missing a major thing. Like, if everyone's like, yeah, I want to be tortured, and he's providing that service after giving them a very thorough interview and also massive contract to review and get legal advice on and sign, I don't necessarily think that there's any foul play there.
Well, so this is what people thought. So he went, down that route. Everyone revered him. I was blown away by it. Like, it just looked so real. But worryingly, things started to come out, and you started to realize some of this was more real than we first thought. So what basically people started coming out and saying that they had psychological trauma. They started showing, submitting police reports of like cuts and bruises, which wasn't agreed. Yeah, physical harm was not agreed. And really, I think the trauma, like multiple people got PTSD from it. And, again, the devil on the side, if you don't call it the devil on the side, do you? What do you call it?
Devil's advocate?
Devil's advocate would say, hey, you signed it, and maybe, there's two sides to it. But really, ended up being a big petition, and police reports and media outrage ended up labelling it as a torture, not a theatre. And I'm not sure if anyone died. I don't think anyone died. But the attraction was eventually forced out of that he had. But it was ultimately shut down because there was just too many negative reports coming out that, no, he went above what he'd committed to.
Interesting. Do you know if does he still have an online platform?
So, this is what I'll get into. So, he rebranded this thing for a period of time, and he created something new, which was quite strange. He just wants money, I guess, but he created like a grueling endurance obstacles thing. Like, challenge wasn't a horror thing, it was like a grueling, sort of Spartan type thing, but like in his back garden. And he offered a $20,000 prize to anyone who finished it. A bunch of people finished it. He didn't pay them. So he sort of used his fame to try and create something else, made money off it, but then people were just like, dude, what's going on? Or, they'd be halfway through it and he would just cut it and go, we're not doing it anymore. They'd be like, well, I can still go. He tried to rebrand himself a couple times, but apparently right now, which I was shocked to learn this, I didn't know, but apparently he actually now still runs a scaled back version of McCamey Manor out of his property in Tennessee.
Oh.
I didn't know he did that, so, and it's mostly invitation now, but he's not a revered person. He was seen as celebrated as a horror visionary, and there's lots of interviews of people big in the horror industry who really respect him and speak good words of him, but only something like it was 8 years later everyone flipped their tune, and now he's largely seen as an obsessive showman who really went too far and just enjoys that sort of control and maybe just does like to traumatize people in a legal way.
Not legal.
Yeah, so the doc is like a 10-minute doc. I think Channel 4 did one on YouTube. If you just put in McCamey Manor, but again, trigger warning, it's dark. When I was a young teenager, I feel like when you're a teenager, you're numb to this stuff.
Yeah.
You can watch, you'd go on all the fucked up websites and you'll watch all the stuff. Now I watch it and go, I watched a bit yesterday, just like literally 2 minutes just to see if there was a video on it still. And it blew my mind how effed up it was. And I was like, I couldn't watch anymore. And I was like, what the fuck? I watched a lot of these. I watched like 30-minute, an hour video of like the latest victim of this place. It's pretty intense.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I'm interested. I'm going to go and check it out at some point.
Tonight.
Yeah, I think that might be a step too far, but thank you for sharing that. I think maybe it's probably time that we go to Shelby's Good Vibes Only. So let's take a break from the chaos. Here's something to make you smile this week. Shelby's Good Vibes Only. So where we've gone from one man who tortures people in a very spooky way, I have a really sweet story of a Texas... Was it Tennessee was the other guy, wasn't it? Your story.
Tennessee, yeah.
Tennessee, well, Texas, somewhat close by. Christoph Wagner is known as the fairy godfather of Halloween. And the reason that he's known as this is because he buys donated clothes from Goodwill and he upcycles them into fancy dress costumes for families who can't afford a Halloween costume for their children every year.
Wow.
He makes them. Like, he's got a sewing machine and he makes these fancy dress outfits because he wants to make sure that all children get to experience the joy of Halloween without any financial burden of buying a costume to their parents. And he does this all out of pocket. So he buys all of the items from Goodwill, and every year he pays $5,000 on storage. So not even on the items, like on storage. And he started that in 2016. And, you know, there's a really sweet video of, like, families saying how much it means to them, and that, you know, because it's such... I love Halloween. It's my favourite holiday. I think it's great. And I don't necessarily feel like I went out trick-or-treating every year, or that, you know, I got dressed up every year, but I love that that's something that happens. And, you know, for one night a year, kids can be whatever they want to be. And, you know, they might want to get dressed up year round, but then, you know, they might feel a bit silly, they might feel like they've outgrown it, or that, you know, people judge them for it. Whereas on Halloween, you can literally, you know, you want to be Spider-Man, you be Spider-Man. All you're going to get is people going, cool Spider-Man outfit.
Yes.
You know, I think it's such a special time of year. And I think it's lovely that Christoph, Mr. Wagner, is making it so that more families can access that, more children can experience the joy of Halloween.
That's beautiful. I was wondering, because we wanted you to get a Halloween related one, I was like, oh, I don't know if she's going to get something happy.
A happy Halloween story.
Yeah. You got a treat tonight. I gave a trick, you gave a treat.
So there you go.
But that's beautiful. Wow, it seems like you invest quite a bit of money into this yearly.
Yeah. So I think
Yeah.
it's a good indicator of how much you must spend.
A ton of storage. Well, check this guy out. If you know, Christoph Wagner, again, we'll put his name in, but check him out on social. He might have socials. Go give him some love.
I wonder if he's got like a GoFundMe or something.
Yeah, we should give him some love. I think that's amazing. He doesn't have to do that.
No, absolutely not. And it's obviously something that he's really passionate about, and that he's got a skill. Like, I love that. I love, you know, when somebody's got a skill in something, like, I can solve a problem with this.
Yes.
Like, he's not just, you know, making stuff and selling it. You know, like starting an Etsy or whatever. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
I get it.
He's really doing something out of the goodness of his heart, which is...
Yeah, he's putting his passion to goodwill. It's beautiful and it's admirable, and I think, yeah, Halloween is a really fun time, a fun day and night that any age can enjoy and not be judged. I love Halloween. I think we should have Halloween on Christmas, maybe.
We'll have Halloween on Christmas in the night.
Hey, I can put that in. I can put that as part of our episode. You should say, no, you might get us copyrighted, but now I can put it in. Oh, we spoke about this song, therefore improve the listenership of our episode. Yeah.
Let's do it.
But yeah, and we're actually thinking of baking a Halloween cake for a Christmas party in the future. In like a month's time. Yeah.
Christmas. Well, I think it's time for our travel set. Time for the travel segment. We still don't have a jingle for the travel segment yet.
It's coming.
Today we're just going to talk about our first impression of Shanghai, that's all.
Yes, and then next episode we'll tell you the good and the bad and all the vegan voyages and everything.
We will, absolutely.
But we need to tell you about Shanghai first.
Scott, what was your first impression of Shanghai?
My first impression of Shanghai would be one of two. I was surprised by how social the locals are. And I don't mean with each other, I mean with us.
Interesting.
China is presented as not a very nice country in the UK and Europe, and sadly a lot of the world, you know, it's presented as the enemy, you know, in the news. And we don't always get great, you know, we don't know much about it than all this scary news. So it was really hard to get a read on it again. And I've only ever had one person who's visited, and they told me they had a great time, but I can't remember much of what they said. They were there for a few days. But I found the locals to want to engage with us, and they were really social. Like it was as if they were like, "Oh hey, I'll be your friend." If you know.
Yeah.
It wasn't like you had to build rapport with them. You didn't have to you didn't have to be a similar age. You didn't have to figure each other out. It was like, no, we're two humans. Let's chat, and if we vibe, we're friends.
Yeah.
And I feel like just after the first night, we'd like 3 different sets of friends. And I was like, wow, that's not true of all countries.
I don't think we've been anywhere. To be fair, in the Middle East, I think people were like,
Yeah.
hey, let's hang out. But outside of that, China's the only other place where we've had random people being like, if you've got nothing to do, I'll show you this. We had a waitress in a restaurant. She was like, if you've got the time, come back and I'll tell you about our tea ceremonies and show you around.
Yeah, we made friends with her. We made friends with another woman in a bar, and we made friends with a guy in a whiskey bar as well. 2 different bars. So I think, yeah, especially with the language barrier, which we will discuss that in the following episode. You can go over the language barrier, but this was on a different level to what we've experienced before. Yeah. The language barrier was, you couldn't even gesture, and a gesture wouldn't be understood. There was no inference. It was like either translate it or there's going to be no conversation.
Yeah.
So I was just really shocked at how social they were, with that being such a difficulty. Because most people would be like, I'm not going to bother with the effort, which is, fine. But yeah, I was impressed by it.
Cool. I think that's a very good first impression. And so similarly, my first impression is that everybody seemed happy. Yeah, my first impression was, I looked around, we were crossing a road, and I was like, everybody's smiling.
Yeah.
No, seriously, everyone's resting face was a smile. And not in a creepy way, just happy. There's not frowning. You'd see people on mopeds smiling, and not smiling at us.
No.
Smiling into space. Just smiling about their day. And I just thought that was lovely. And I've not noticed that anywhere before. Just clearly a content group of people. And I thought that was wonderful. So yeah, as far as I'm concerned, really positive first impressions of Shanghai.
Yeah, brilliant. People are lovely, happy, social, welcoming. Yeah, it was great first impressions of Shanghai. And we'll get on to much, much more in our next episode, so make sure you don't miss it.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Another adventure wrapped up.
But the journey never ends.
Keep your bags packed for the next one. And remember, when in doubt, just say,
Yalla
Habibi.
See you next time.